I guess initially it would be interesting to know what drew you to USG. You know what?
Okay.
Tell that story.
It's a long story, but I'll be short.
Okay.
When I was growing up, I was a Baptist. My father was a Baptist minister, and I was, of course, always in the Baptist church until I got to junior high school. And my best friend's mother asked me to play the piano for a group of Unitarians who used a Methodist church there after their service for the Unitarian service. There were only maybe 20 people altogether, but they needed somebody to play the music for the people to sing. And I did that. And I got to know the people and the way they functioned and the programs that they gave and what they were saying religiously, if you want to call it religiously. And it made me decide that when I grew up, or before I grew up, or the first chance I had, I was going to become a Unitarian. So, as luck would have it, when my husband and I were looking for a home, the house that we liked best was on Lincoln Drive, and the house was approximately 3 blocks from the church. So I just started going down there, and I fell in love with the people and with and the things made sense to me that I heard. I mean, this is way after college and everything. I was married by then, and then the church school was really, really good. And my older son went to church school there, and then my younger son did too later, but didn't like it. But he went anyway.
I'm curious, since you had been raised by a Baptist minister, when you first became aware of what Unitarian Universalism was, like what was it that made you think, I'd like to engage in this religion? Like, is there anything in particular?
Well, I had some questions.
Okay.
I had a lot of questions about heaven and about the deity of Jesus. And whenever I asked a question, I would be referred to the Bible most of the time, or other times it was just it's just something that people just believed so strongly that they thought that everyone else should believe it too. But as I was experiencing the service to these people, the Unitarian choir people, it seemed to make more sense to me. And I just made up my mind that whenever
So it was a
I had
place
chance,
that you could ask these questions and explore.
I asked the questions at home. The answers probably sent me to the Bible, or it sent me to, or it gave me an opportunity to think about things, but to compare what other people are doing with what I'm doing and what my church was best.
What year was it then that you and your husband started to go, and your kids? What year was
Well,
that?
that was 63. That was
63
63 was when I actually joined the church, when Reverend Dascom was there. And I spoke to him about it several times, and I reminded him in the dining room several times, and each time he put me off, and he says, "Okay, we're going to do it soon." And then one Sunday morning, he did call me to come in, and he talked with me, but he didn't have me sign anything or anything that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe about 3 or 4 weeks later, I went to him again and told him that I really wanted to join the church.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went back this time, he gave me something to sign, and I don't know what it was. I just signed my name. I just figured it was the signature that I was joining the church.
Mm-hmm.
And was very happy that it was that simple. It didn't have to be baptized and all that, as I had been. That had happened when I was in Baptist church.
Mm-hmm.
So.
So that was equivalent to, you think, like signing the book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that we do. It wasn't a public.
No, it was in his office.
Yeah.
And so I just knew I was a member. At that time, I'm almost sure we had envelopes or something like that for church,
Mm-hmm.
and I was given envelopes, and then when I didn't have them, there were always envelopes in the pew,
Mm-hmm.
and I was paying,
Mm-hmm.
my money every Sunday, my
Yeah.
dues,
Yeah.
and.
Well, in '62, what do you remember the racial makeup of the church?
63, I think
63,
it
I'm
was. There were
sorry.
very few people. There was one wonderful woman. Oh gosh, I can't remember her name. Who Iona? I can't think of Iona's last name. Anyway, she was on the board, I think, when I joined, and maybe about less than a year after I joined, she left in a really quickly, and I wondered why she had left, and I didn't know people that well to ask them why would Iona leave,
Mm-hmm.
and I never did find out,
Mm-hmm.
but she was very, very. I think she was a teacher at Temple, and
Mm-hmm.
very
Mm-hmm.
loving and caring. And I didn't know her well enough to, and
Right.
I didn't see her often enough
But
to
you
really
remember her
ask her. But
leaving
I remember
and
her
being
leaving.
unhappy, yeah.
And later, I heard that she was really unhappy with
Mm-hmm.
the minister.
Okay.
So.
And when you said there wasn't very many people, are you talking like less than 50, less than 20, less than 100? What does that mean when you said very little people that were in the church? When you and your husband and family started in 1963?
Did I say that?
Yeah, you said there weren't that many people.
I probably meant there weren't many African American people.
Okay, just yeah. Well,
but I'm not sure that.
Okay.
I know I didn't say there were very many people. There was a nearly crowd. There was a wonderful choir.
Were the pews packed?
No.
Okay.
No, they were not packed at all.
But they would fill.
But there
pretty
was,
good.
it was a nice
right.
crowd
very
of
few
people.
of
And there were
color.
times when it was.
Yeah.
I'm getting it mixed up with when David was there, because I can remember you had to get there earlier. You were sitting in the back or something. I know we used to stretch it to get there. My husband never joined, but he would come to church with me. And the kids went to church school. Yeah.
Was there any social activism at the time?
I can't
related to
remember
civil
any.
rights, 1963? No, pretty quiet.
No, I didn't see anything or hear anything happening.
Right. Did you ever feel uncomfortable with the minister? Because we're curious about the leadership at the time, and you happened to.
I felt uncomfortable with him, yes, because the day after, not the day, there was this Sunday when he actually had me sign something. I don't know what. I don't remember whether it was a piece of paper or a book or whatever, but he gave me something and told me to sign, and that was going to be my membership. And I signed it, and the following Tuesday, he came to my house, and I was surprised, because he had been there before, but he brought a list of African American churches and told me these are some churches you might be more interested in. And I said to him, well, I've already joined your church. He said, but you need to realize that this is true in this area. I said, I know the area of Germantown, even though I didn't live here before in Germantown and Westmount area. I know there are plenty of churches. I didn't join because it was a predominantly white church, of course. I joined because I believe in the belief that in the way that they worship and in the feelings I get when I'm in the church. I feel at home, and I had made quite a few really good friends by then, and so that was the way that went.
Did that conversation with him end this discussion, or did he keep bringing it up later with you, reminding you that there might be a place that might be better for you, or no? It was just that one conversation.
No, because
you
I
told
was
him how you
very,
felt.
I let him go that day. I was shocked, sort of, and I talked to Charlie about it. He said, well, you don't have to stay there, And later, I did say something to him about it, but I can't remember, and I'd rather not say what I said or what he said because I don't remember. I do remember that when we were going to have my younger son, what's the word?
When you go through when you graduate from religious...
No, he was going to be, when he was born.
Dedication,
yeah. For his dedication, Reverend, you have to help me with this name.
Sure, Dascom.
Dascom. Reverend Dascom he performed the dedication, and we had a long line of people. My parents, my mother was there, and my husband's parents were there, and several relatives. We were
it was a big
we
celebration.
had kept up the front of the church almost, and it was done very nicely. The thing was, he had a trimmer of sorts, and his hands were shaking so, and everybody was, my husband was saying, he better not drop my son. But, it was very nice. Everything went along very, quite well. Yeah. And then the kids went to church school there. Larry was already in church school there, and because he was 7 or 8 years old. He said 7 or 8 years older than Howie, something like that. I don't know. But anyway, they were both dedicated in that church. And I don't recall, I'm not sure. My older one was not dedicated in that church. My father did him.
Okay.
In the Baptist church.
Okay, but your youngest did.
Because he was so, adamant about doing that for his first grandchild.
Sure. Do you remember at what point social activism became active in the church? What do you remember about that, and who was in leadership at the time?
I believe that when it first happened, that I knew about, was under the leadership of David.
Park.
David
Park.
David Park.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so that would have been, you think, what year?
Oh, I
70s?
can't say. It's in the 70s.
Okay.
Because I stayed at USG until
through the 60s.
I was there the 60s, the 70s, and then when my mother came to live with me after my father died, no, this was after they divorced. Doesn't matter. Anyway, my mother came to live with us, and I had to find her a church, which meant I had to drive her wherever she wanted to go on Sunday mornings. I don't know if there was a Baptist church that she didn't get to, but we went to the Baptist churches all over Philadelphia, and the one that she liked best was in our area, so it wasn't so bad, So I joined with her in that church. No, I joined with her in two churches. But the second one was Mount Olivet. Anyway, doesn't matter.
But it was Baptist.
It was Baptist. And
did you try to go to both churches?
For a while, I did. Yeah. Because I wanted her to be comfortable at the church before I would leave her, just drop her off. After about 3 or 4 months, I would just drop her there.
So I'm guessing your father had passed away?
Yes.
Okay.
And I would go on to USG.
Boy, that must have been like a ping pong, Baptist,
yeah, but it was better than all those other places. I took her to North Philly. I took her to...
Because it was closer.
To so many places of churches that she knew, because my mother had been the vice president of the Baptist Women's Auxiliary for New York State.
Wow.
And so I wanted her to get into a really good church, and where she did go, the man was familiar with the whole Baptist thing. He was very bright and very intelligent and spoke beautifully, and as many, black ministers are, and the church was a little bit more spirited. In some instances.
But you mentioned David, the minister David, what was his name?
David Park.
The climate changed with his leadership a bit?
Yes, it did. And he encouraged us to do more things that led to having a larger number of people come into the Unitarian Church, and he encouraged people with children to bring their kids to the nursery schools, and not just him, but the whole
board
seemed more welcoming.
Yeah.
When he was there.
Good. And what about any kind of structured committee on social action or civil rights?
That came about really in full bloom when Nina was there.
Okay.
There was some movement, a little bit of movement toward it, but it's very, very difficult for me to pick the times.
That's okay.
When various things were happening.
And you can comment more on your activity, maybe separate it from what the church was doing, like what were you involved with?
Sitting in the pews, largely. I didn't become active until we started the Ending Racism Committee. I mean, I didn't... I will say that, when Kent first came, I had been elected to the board because I had been on a lot of committees to choose a minister. But I hadn't It's very difficult to remember that long, but
I'm trying to remember. Jeff, you help out here too, but I met you in '03, and you were already involved in ending racism. So I'm guessing ending racism.
We started ending racism.
Started like maybe at the end of the '90s.
Yeah, it was.
Which I
it
think
wasn't
was
the end of
before
the
Kent.
'90s. It was when
Nina Gray.
Yeah, it was with Nina Gray, where we actually saw. David tried, to do things like that. He tried to encourage that, and I can't remember anything. There was a social action club organization in the church, and I belonged to that, and so did Betty Hankins. Both of us belonged.
And there were those speakers. I want to say, like, maybe after Sunday, you guys would organize once a month.
We did it.
A speaker, right? That was Social Action did that.
Yeah, we did it. But even before that, we had, I forgot. We had a group. It was, what's the girl's name from, oh God, from, I can see her.
It wasn't Robert's wife, was it?
No. This woman was from Restoration, and
there was also Liz Charles and Violet
Liz
Hayes.
and Violet.
They were very active.
They were active in the ending racism.
But that social action was first, you're right.
Yes, social action was first, and gosh, I can see him, who was the head of it, and it was going okay. I mean, we were walking out on Lincoln Drive, trying to spread the idea of racial equality,
and they would do
and
like
stuff
a
like
public.
that. We would do some kind of public thing every once in a while.
Some sort of rally outside. I remember that.
Well, that rally stuff was mostly having to do with social justice.
Yeah.
It wasn't a racial thing, for what I recall anyway.
So that could be LGBT as well as what poverty, or just
anything like that.
It was kind of all lumped under a big umbrella. Yeah. And when I'm just curious, because you talked about being in the pews, and taking a leadership role with the board, many years later.
That was much
past
later.
1963,
Yeah,
but you had kids and you were busy and all that.
I got off the board after 3 or 4 meetings, because I was at that time working on a second master's. I was working toward my doctorate, but it actually became a second master's because I couldn't give up the time from my children and husband to write all that, to do all those tell me. Yes.
Because you were a principal.
Yes, I was.
You were a teacher, but you were also a principal.
I was a principal for many years.
Aren't you credited with Zingale-Baird?
No.
No, that was Marietta?
Zingale-Baird was the school that I had adopted. I adopted the school before the church did.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You are credited with that.
Yes, I adopted a 5th grade class that I had since I had been working with them since kindergarten. I had a bookstore called Fran's Bookhouse at the corner of Horter and Green, right underneath a drugstore. Do you know where that was? And it was an out of print and rare bookstore, and I had it first down in Schuylkill Lane, right. Green Street, right on the corner. There was this huge, gorgeous building. I hear they're throwing it down. But I had a bookstore in there first when my husband was still living. And when he was dying, and I knew that he was getting very sicker and sicker. I moved the whole store up to Green and Horter, where there had been a drugstore there, and that's where I moved to so that I could run home back and forth quickly. And I had somebody working with me in the store, but I moved particularly so I could be with him a lot before he was going to go to the hospital and going back to the hospital. So anyway, yeah, that's a long story.
But that decision to adopt Zingale-Baird, was that a combination of
what had
personal as well as professional? Or that was strictly professional?
No, it was I had this class I had them for kindergarten. I started volunteering.
And you followed them.
Yeah, and I followed them.
That's incredible.
For 5 years, and we did all kinds of wonderful trips and everything. I mean, that principal was so fantastic. I can't even remember her name now. It's terrible. But there were teachers there that were just so wonderful. And this one class, I started with them in a kindergarten, and I couldn't leave them. I stayed with them until they were in the 5th grade, which is when they would be leaving Zingale-Baird. And I cried because I knew I wouldn't be invited to do anything with them in a not to that degree in a school where the kids have to change classes and a lot and all that. But anyway, I did stay with that class until then, and the teachers were just absolutely marvelous. And
then how did you make the connection to USG, tutoring the kids at
Zingale-Baird? Because we had tutoring for them on Saturday mornings.
Didn't you start that, Fran?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Was that
But
just you, or was that
also
through Social Action?
I can't remember, but I know that it's not nice.
It's all right.
She has a lovely daughter who's now away.
And she's part of USG right now?
Yeah.
She's still active in
I
the
see her
church?
all the time.
Is she
And
with
her
any-
daughter was writing to me even when she got into college. She was still writing.
Is she in
to
any
me.
racism today?
I'm
No,
not sure.
just somebody in the
Anyway,
congregation.
she mentioned it in church one Sunday. Oh goodness, I can see her so well, but I just can't remember her name. But anyway, she started after I was going to the school every mornings before I opened my store, or maybe sometimes afterwards, because I had somebody else working there. In fact, the somebody else who was working there, whose name I can't remember either, was the president of the board at UU Church. This black woman. Wonderful
She's president
person.
of the board.
Yeah.
So did you find USG throughout the years, as you reflect back and think about your experiences there? I mean, how do you describe the church's a commitment then to these important issues of ending racism or social action? Or
Well, there was a time early on in the 60s when a group of us got together, and we were very unhappy with what was happening at the church, and we formed a group along with some people from Restoration, and I forget what we called ourselves, but we did skits and some musical stuff into a little program that would take up the time of a service, and we did that from church to church in every one of the churches in Delaware Valley.
Wow.
It was
Every
a
one of the
skit
UU
with
churches?
yes. Every one of the U churches, and it was amazing how it was
Wow.
accepted so beautifully. Some places and the other places had their eyes turned up, and then they were just tolerating what we were doing. We could tell, but we wrote a skit. In fact, God, what's the woman's name from
Restoration.
You know her. I mean, I don't know if you know her. Everybody knows her. She's black. She teaches at Temple. Not Ione, who came from our church. She's wonderful too. But this other woman, I just called her
At
a few
Restoration.
nights ago to see how she is.
Right.
And there was music that was recorded that went in with what we were saying, or emphasized what we were saying. And those were performed. We performed those in every church that I know of in of the UU churches.
And that was probably in the 90s?
In the 90s.
In the 90s.
Yeah.
And that might have been under...
It might have been... It was... Wait a minute. Was that under James? Was that under Park?
You certainly had, okay, was reflective of many, many, many members, both black and white, or how much of this was more or less the attention and focus of a small group? What do you think?
Well, of course, the African American people were very interested in it. Not all of them joined us now. In fact, one of the guys who was on the board, one of the men who was on the board, joined very late, just before we went to a conference in Chicago, I remember, but he did join. It was the beautiful lady's husband. She's on the board. She's on ending racism now. I thought he was white all the time. He looked white, and he didn't look anything like black. But he's married to somebody you've interviewed, older than I.
This is is the man somebody that's active in the church? There's so few men.
He was on some kind of subcommittee of the board, and it was Watlington's husband.
Okay. Oh, Marion.
Marion.
Marion's husband.
Yeah.
But he has since passed away.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
he was active and involved.
Not until the end.
Not until the
Not
end.
until near
Okay.
the end, when we were getting ready to go to
Okay.
Chicago to
Okay.
to a conference. And he joined shortly before then. He started coming to our meetings. We were allowed to have the meetings at church. And at first, there was a black guy, I think, who was chairperson of the board. Or he might not have been. Maybe I'm mixing it up. Maybe he became our leader.
This was the Ending Racism Committee, so it had broken away from the social action by then?
Oh yeah, it broke away pretty quickly.
Because there
I
wasn't
can't
enough
remember.
energy to maybe do it.
Yeah, there wasn't anything happening. It grew out of the work that we did with this group that went around with the skit.
Okay.
That was the earliest thing that
Okay.
happened.
Okay.
And some churches really were very welcoming and congratulatory, and the others were, just bearing with us,
And was
kind of thing.
the focus of these plays to raise awareness of racism, to get
Yes.
the dialogue going?
Yes.
Okay. Boy, that sounded
But we don't know
very
if
significant.
I don't know to what degree other churches did it.
Right.
But we did go on because
Right.
we still had that social action club which was doing
Carried on.
some other things, like toward peace and justice and that sort of thing, but not racial justice.
Yeah.
And then there was a group of us that started meeting in the fall of one year. I do remember it was fall when we started, and I cannot tell you the year.
That's okay. It must have been
Has
the
anybody
mid-90s,
has anybody
late
come up
90s.
with the date?
This was
This was after it was starting at the end of the gentleman we were talking. Bill Gardner. No, it wasn't Bill Gardner.
That's the minister. His name was Bill.
With the piercing eyes.
Okay, that's not the one I'm talking about. I'm talking about the one just before Nina.
It was an older gentleman who was more of a preacher.
This was a guy who had dark hair, and he was. Is there a machine on? I want to say he was let go because of his.
Some sexual harassment stuff?
No, he was going with this woman on the board.
Oh.
I didn't want to talk about that.
Well, anyway.
Anyway,
so,
he lived at that big place down at the end of what's that, Germantown Avenue that goes that way? Germantown Avenue in Wissahickon. What's that place? That beautiful...
Alden Park.
Huh?
Alden Park.
Alden Park. That's where he lived. He had an apartment there, and he and his girlfriend invited my husband and me to come to a meeting there, to come to dinner there. And all he talked about was he needed me on the board for something, and I fought it all the way.
But you were on the board at some point.
Yeah, but not until he started. He was giving me a fit all the time. Every time I turned around, he was talking about it. And then he invited Charlie and me to his house. I mean, he invited me, and I brought Charlie, I guess. And he was talking to me every time I turned around about being on the board. And I tried it, and I couldn't stand it. Because it was taking too much time from other things, my children and everything. So I didn't stay on.
Okay.
And after that, I started thinking about, moving out of it.
Did you ever leave USG for a period of time?
Yes, I did.
Was that with the decision to go to the Baptist church with your mom, or a different time?
No.
A different time.
The time that I went was while we were looking for a place for her. I found a place for me.
Oh.
And if it was there,
okay.
If I was going there,
okay.
And I did go there.
Right.
And if they had stayed in Philadelphia, I would stay. I had still been with them, but
they left.
They left too and went to Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
But they weren't a UU congregation.
No, they weren't UU.
Yeah.
But they were the most marvelous.
What was it?
Church between.
Like Unity Church or something.
Unity.
Unity.
In fact, there's my Unity thing that I read every morning.
My mother was
I am a Unity person.
Yeah.
And Unitarian is the closest that I can get to Unity.
I gotcha.
Okay.
So when they moved to Cherry Hill, did you go back to USG?
Yes.
Okay.
Not right away.
Not right
away.
Yeah.
I started going to my mom's church. I couldn't take it at all, anymore. And because I would drop her off. Then I started dropping her off and coming over to USG.
Okay. And in that period of time when you returned, was that when you became involved with the Lingelbach program? Okay.
I don't know if that was the time of the Lingelbach. I'm not sure about that. Time is a crazy thing to me.
I know that Lingelbach I know that those kids looked you up years later, and I knew you then.
Yeah.
When they were in 12th grade, I think.
Yes.
Somehow somebody made a connection, and you were with them, and you told the story, and
really...
I'm so sorry. I do get you and Marietta mixed up with your stories.
Oh, that's,
Maybe because
you know what?
look alike.
We're from the same.
But who
place.
was connected to Rosemont? Was that you or Marietta?
At
Rosemont College.
Me.
That was your
Yeah,
library.
yes.
That was your library.
That's
and
where
I
I
know
moved
you
the library
moved it from
to.
Rosemont to someplace else. Where is it today?
It is now at the Lower Merion School District.
Okay.
They needed it.
Okay, that's fine. I know
Yeah.
you were unhappy with Rosemont.
Yeah.
So that, I'm just curious, now that came out of your, don't you think, your professional
Yes.
skills more than being a UU or a Unity person? Yeah, but that was certainly a significant. How do you think USG shaped who you are? How have you evolved? Can you comment? This way you're just talking about yourself. You're not talking about people. You have to remember their names. Just you, Fran.
Just me.
Yeah. And if so, if you
Well,
can comment
for
how
one
you evolved,
thing-
in what way did USG contribute to that evolution? Was it the people? Was it the faith?
I will tell you that the church was very supportive of my bringing the store up into our area.
Okay.
And a lot of people came there, and bought things, and sometimes just stopped in to talk and all that. Or came to we had a lot of book-related affairs, programs with big. We introduced Jerry Pinkney and my son, he's not really my son, but this painting here, this one over there, E.B. Lewis, the children's book artist.
Oh.
We put him on the map. He was just a young man running around with his drawings and stuff, and I would invite him to come to book club things that we had, book
Readings
organizations,
and stuff,
readings and stuff like that. And now he's probably the most famous children's book author in the world. He's in France now, setting up a program in Paris.
Wow.
He comes by to see me every time he's in Philly.
Say his
And
name again.
he's my son, E.B. Lewis.
E.B. Lewis.
I can show you a stack of books like that are all signed by him that he gave me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, it's a wonderful, wonderful young man. He never comes in town unless he comes to see me.
That's so
And,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Let me see if there's any
Just,
closing
we're going
questions
all
here.
kinds of things here.
But
But you're making me remember some things
which is
that I
kind
had.
of fun. It's
I had
fun.
totally forgotten. Some of them I'm happy I forgot, but
Now, when you think about you at USG today, and I know that because of your illness, you've been away from the congregation and ending racism for, I think, almost a year now.
well, off and on.
Off and on. And
It's
I was wondering
been-
if you had any recommendations for the church. What would you like to see?
I just like to see them going in the direction that they seem to be going
Oh, good.
right now.
Good.
It was such a wonderfully spiritual experience to be in that church on this past Sunday.
Yeah, it was fun.
And if I could compare that with when I first came in, or even later than that, I mean, because I think it started becoming much better for me in the 90s after Nina came. I loved David's efforts that he made to make things better, but they fought him all the way.
We're going to find his name out, right, Jeff?
Well, David Park is who you're referring to.
Yeah, David.
Oh, okay.
David tried very hard to do different things to make the church more racially, people there more aware of what
Racism, legacy of slavery.
Yeah. He tried very much to do that, but it wasn't accepted very well. Just a few, and some people left the church because of it. But
And yesterday, Marietta credited you to getting her to come to USG because you basically said you're not going anywhere else but this church.
that's right.
What do you remember about that?
And she's true. I was on her all the time because we're friends, and we have similar backgrounds in education and stuff. And she's just a delightful person. We've been friends for many years. And she would come to our house sometimes, especially to see the kids and things. And I would talk to her about USG. And then one bright morning she joined. It made me very happy because and I'm going to be very sad when she leaves.
I know, we all
Too.
are.
She's just a marvelous person. Beautiful.
Are we forgetting anybody else in terms of people that you feel really need to be pulled up and
You've done
credited?
Betty.
Yeah.
You did Betty
Yeah.
Hankins.
Oh, yeah.
Hankins.
In your mind. Whether or not they've really been on the committee doesn't really matter, but anybody else?
You know who was very active with us, and I
Yeah.
can't think of her name as well as I know her. She was the cook.
Oh,
She and
yes,
her
I saw
husband,
pictures of her.
Aletha. No.
Yes, that sounds like.
What is her name?
No, I can. Brene.
Brene.
Yeah,
Brene was very active. She
Yes.
came to all of our meetings.
Yes.
And
yes, you're right. And her husband too, both of them. Her husband too.
I remember him.
Dallas.
Yeah. He didn't come to the meetings so much.
No.
She did.
Maybe I'm just thinking of.
We saw him at church because I think they cooked and things.
Yeah. But Brene was active.
But Brene was very active, and she was hurt at something we went to one time when she wasn't mentioned or wasn't included in something.
I agree.
And
I remember
yeah,
that.
please get hold of her.
Yeah, and then I know wasn't her son involved? He was hurt tragically, a car accident or something horrible.
The terrible accident.
Something terrible. I don't even know. I don't think I've seen her since then.
She's been back. She's been back. She's had serious illnesses for a long
We did
time.
speak with her. We interviewed both Brene and Dallas.
Oh, thank
You
goodness.
did?
Yeah.
Good.
Goodness.
Good.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Yeah, because Dallas was usually in the kitchen still, while service was going on, but he could hear it all, because they had the loudspeaker
Yeah. No, they're very
working
special
in
people.
there. They are.
thank you.
She did a
I
banquet for
felt
me.
like there was somebody, and I think that's maybe who I was
She
thinking of.
did. That was the same Sunday that Kent. The same Sunday that Kent. What did he do that Sunday? Did he? No. I think that Kent. Oh God. I think that Kent not christened, but did my younger son dedicated. I can't.
Yeah.
Isn't that terrible?
It's a Unitarian thing.
Yeah, I know. He dedicated.
It's the rose without the thorns.
Yeah.
With a little bit of water. My girls always think about that because then when they turned 13 or whatever and started the next phase, the rose had thorns.
Oh,
I
right.
thought that was so cool. So.
Anyway, but
Yeah.
he did. No, it was Max that did. No, he couldn't have done him. I wasn't still there.
But Kent certainly, he, I think he helped to continue Nina Gray's good work. And,
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He pitched right in, and we talked to him before he came. I can remember that. It seemed to me that we sat and talked. Maybe he had just come, and he called the Ending Racism Committee together, or something. I know that we met with him, and our ideas were in sync.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things is holding us back now, not holding us back, but keeping us from doing as much as we could do, is that, oh no, I don't want to say that.
Be patient, it'll come.
I don't know. I've forgotten. It was,
Well, we were talking about Kent,
yeah.
and then you felt that there was something that,
Oh, and that is to redo that
brochure.
brochure,
Yeah,
because it was excellent.
yes.
We all worked on it,
Yes.
but that wonderful Amy pulled it together,
Yes, she did.
and it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
We are.
She-
We
And
I'm
I
pretty
asked
sure
her
it
about it
finished
at
this
a
summer.
party back in December.
Mm-hmm.
She looks so wonderful now.
Does she?
She had let herself.
Well,
There's some-
there were some challenges, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want.
We're going to edit all this
Okay,
out.
I don't want that in there.
She does look good. She
Yes,
looks really
she
happy.
looks beautiful.
Yeah, I agree.
And she's happy. She's gotten promotions and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yay.
And I was just so happy for her. Poor, I
too.
can't say the same thing for poor Robert.
No.
Looks like he's fading away into nothing.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
so
I
sad.
know.
What a man. I brought them to the church.
Did you? Amy
Yes,
and
they were
Robert?
on my board.
Wow.
On the board of the Multicultural Resource Center.
At Rosemont?
No.
Before then?
Before then.
I didn't know that.
Yes, they were on the
Wow.
board, and not only were they on the board, but they were also, they did individual work toward, anti-racism,
Oh, yeah.
racism
Oh, yeah.
and stuff. But they worked very diligently and gave up all that time towards the brochure. And I said to somebody in the church, I can't remember who was in charge then, you shouldn't just put these in the pews for people to take. There should find some other kind of way to get them out, or something, because if they're too expensive
To keep
to
replacing.
keep replacing them,
I don't know if we figured that part out.
But
we don't have them in the pews right now, so we need to.
we need to do something.
Yeah. Have you ever seen? You've seen those, Jeff, right?
I have, but not recently.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is is it the white privilege?
Yep.
Yeah, that was a wonderful, wonderful piece of work, and Amy led the way in doing it, and she did all the corrections and added her own flares to it, and it was just absolutely beautiful. I
No,
think
I
it was
agree.
it was
Really,
the best.
really agree.
Did you remember seeing it?
Oh yeah, that was what I think grabbed me sitting in the pews.
Really?
Mhm. And then I saw that sign and it said, "Ending Racism Committee," and it had the date of the next meeting, and that was it.
Isn't that something?
And I was like, "Can I go to that?" Like it didn't
Yeah.
say, it didn't tell me that I could go. It just had it. So I knew it was going on, and then I finally asked someone, and they were like, "Yeah." Then they changed the sign, so it said, "You are welcome to attend."
Yeah.
But it was those brochures. I remember thinking, "Wow, this is so cool. This is so exciting," because I was so hungry to have dialogue about difference in race, and you just never felt like you could have a conversation with anybody about it. It had to be like, "Shh, don't talk about it."
Well, Amy, she came to every meeting we had of the
Yeah.
Ending Racism Committee once we started,
Yeah.
and we put Betty in charge, and what a
Yeah.
dynamite person she is, and so we were going great guns there for a while, and then it sloughed up. We went to I started going. Nina sent me to to Chicago to one of the Jubilees.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I don't know if it was a Jubilee, but anyway, I went there for 2 conferences.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a lot myself, and then the people who, I came back and did some work, and then some other people went, the second time we went to the larger convention, and they were very caught on fire. That's when Watlington went the last time we went to Chicago, I think. And the church became much more open to that sort of thing. And I won't say it was just because some of the older people had left or gone or died, but I think it was because some of them had the feelings and the dreams and knew the possibilities or thought they knew the possibilities that could occur, but they weren't encouraged to do that,
Right.
in other words, and in many cases they were kind of shut up from their own groups because they did it. But I'm so glad that we persisted in that, and that it's going well. We're doing a lot of things now.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Fran. This has been
Oh,
so
no.
special. This has been very, very
This
special.
this has been, I hope you can pull something out of it besides me jumping around here.
Oh, it was great.
Well, I know I
It
get
was
excited
great.
when I think of where something can go, if people
Yeah.
will just stick
Yeah.
with it a little bit.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's really, really true. Jeff's gone to the last 2 meetings from what he's told me. Right, Jeff?
I have, but they've been mainly on the incarceration meetings. They haven't been there for ending racism committee.
And part of that is
Yeah.
also ending racism stuff, too.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Definitely.
A lot of it is.
Yeah.
So you're doing
That's going to
good work.
happen. It's the Sunday after Thanksgiving,
What?
or is it the Sunday before? Sunday before Thanksgiving
What's that?
is the Teach-In 2 at the church on anti-mass incarceration, and the theme is jobs is the thing. Meaning, we got to figure out opportunities for employment when people are released, so that they don't turn right around and wind up back in jail. So that it's a full day of,
Because
speakers.
that is going to require some more education also,
Yeah.
but of a different type.
And to also have, prisons used to have opportunities to become a plumber or an engineer. There was a chance to get a degree while you were incarcerated, and they just got rid of all that stuff. They don't offer that anymore.
They just put them out on the street.
Well, while they're in jail, so when they left, they had a
but when they
skill.
leave now,
They're just put on the street.
Yes,
Yes.
if
And that's why you have this Center for Returning Citizens right here in our own area, which is fantastic. And they try, but everybody keeps saying they need jobs. So changing the rules so you don't have to mark the box. That's one step that I think the government is moving away from, having to mark the box
right.
on
I
federal
just
farms
saw
and
that
things like
recently.
that. Yeah.
So
But
it's good.
It's there's just so much. There's always so much.
Well, it's good work you're doing, lady.
Yeah, I can't wait.
It's good work you're doing,
we're
sir.
excited. Yes, we're very
You're
excited.
both should be very
And I'm
excited
so
because
glad you got Brene and Dallas. Thank
Yeah, we
you
have-
so much.
that's
Isn't
really
that
She's
great?
a little
Yeah.
more animated than